Welcome back, fight fans, to another episode of Ringside. Dmitry Bivol gets the nod over Artur Beterbiev in a highly technical affair in the rematch, which followed their October clash. This fight was an interesting one, and one I think I actually got pretty correct and right on the nose. Dmitry Bivol had outboxed Beterbiev and had made a great deal more improvements in the fight. I believe that Artur Beterbiev is getting up there in age, and I think that Dmitry Bivol's output had improved during this fight. And so a majority decision win for Dmitry Bivol was something I actually wholeheartedly expected, but it needed to be confirmed tonight. And so now, with Bivol having this win, a trilogy is warranted. But overall, this fight was extremely exciting. It was just as good, if not better, than the first fight, and it was equally intriguing as the first fight was highly contested by many boxing fans, myself included. Although I had predicted Beterbiev to win the first fight, and he did, I had a feeling that it was more of a draw than a clear win. This second fight had confirmed who could make the best adjustments and adaptations in an incoming rematch, and I believe that Artur Beterbiev didn't really have too much to add to his game plan, but Dmitry Bivol definitely had leagues to improve from his first fight, and he did. Moving on to the other fights on this card, Joseph Parker beats Martin Bakole, Martin Bakole being a late replacement for this fight. This outcome was something I didn't completely expect, as I thought Joseph Parker would take more rounds to beat Bakole, but Joseph Parker only took 2 and completely blew an out-of-shape Bakole out of the water. This win doesn't confirm necessarily that Joseph Parker can beat Bakole, but it does shed him in a better light. Now, this adds another big name on paper to Parker's record, but his Martin Bakole win can't really be credited to the fullest extent, considering Martin Bakole was completely out of shape. Still, I credit Joseph Parker for going into that fight on very late notice and practically fighting a man who probably had a slightly different style to Dubois. Not a very different style, but Parker must have felt a little bit uneasy when he first heard the news, but he still took the fight. Much respect to him. He definitely deserves a fight like Alexander Usyk or possibly Ajit Kabayel in the future. Moving on, Carlos Adamimes beats Hamzat Shiraz, at least in my eyes. The fight was declared a draw. However, Adamimes definitely had this fight clearly 8 rounds to 4, as Hamzat Shiraz couldn't let his hands go, and he definitely underperformed in this fight. Now, Adamimes should move on to unifications in the middleweight division, especially with Zanibek, and I believe that there's a bright future for Adamimes. On the other hand, Shiraz doesn't necessarily need to rethink his game plan, but he needs to, I think, fight some more lower level fighters, get a little bit more experience, and build his confidence. Virgil Ortiz Jr., to my surprise, actually beat Israel Madrimov by unanimous decision. It was an extremely close fight. I believe giving the nod to Ortiz was warranted. Madrimov needed to also let his hands go more, brawl more. And although Ortiz might have beat him in the inside game, Madrimov really did not throw enough punches during that fight. And so we have 2 more large fights which took place on the card. Zhilei Zhang lost in 6 rounds to Ajit Kabayel. Kabayel beat Zhang as per my prediction, but I did not expect that Kabayel would be able to take Zhang's power, and he did. Although he was knocked down, he was not hurt by that shot. It was just a thudding shot that surprised him. More of a surprising shock that kind of made him land on the canvas, rather than a real power shot that hurt Caballel. Zhang is stopped for the first time in his career by a body shot. And Zhang actually did come in at 287 pounds, which is lighter than his Joseph Parker fight. So he was in better shape just slightly. But again, Zhang has now fought at the elite level for a long time. I don't really think Zhang has taken a lot of damage, physical damage, throughout his career. But currently, he may only have 1 or 2 fights left. I don't know how long Zhang could really carry on in the division. I don't know what top 15 heavyweight he could really beat. Maybe Joshua, if he clipped Joshua with a lucky left hand. But I'm sure Zhang could make just 1 or 2 more paychecks and move on from the sport of boxing. Lastly, we had Callum Smith beat Joshua Buatsi by a close unanimous decision. This was an exciting back and forth slugfest. Both fighters were hurt. Both fighters gave it all that they could give. And overall, this was a very exciting fight. Now, Smith, to my surprise, came in with a little bit more grit than I had expected, considering his devastating loss to Beterbiev. And Buatsi was better than I thought in this fight. I thought Smith, if he were a little bit disavowed by the Beterbiev fight, would still be able to bring on 90% of his full ability and beat Buatsi by a close decision. But instead, Smith came with all of his strengths, and Buatsi came with all of his strength, and Smith won by a close unanimous decision with his full abilities and full confidence. I think the Smith win was deserved. However, it was close enough for one to give the fight to Buatsi, but I don't think a Smith decision was necessarily harmful or wrong. Now, this card did prove to have many 50-50 fights on it. Madrimov-Ortiz was a fight where some said Madrimov won. Callum Smith versus Buatsi was still a fight that many said Buatsi also won. And relatively, Adam Imes versus Shiraz was not exactly a 50-50 fight, but definitely an exciting fight and a good matchup on paper. And it did go the full 12. Now, Beterbiev-Bivol was also a 50-50 fight, which lived up to the hype once again. And Caballel-Zhang was not a 50-50 fight, but I never really thought it would be a 50-50 fight. I thought even if Caballel had won by a decision, it would have been a wide margin. But this was the last crescendo card put on by Turki Al-Sheikh at Riyadh season. And it was one heck of an exciting card, and something I am happy to live within through the boxing scene. This is Zachary Cloutier at ringside. Tell me what you thought of the fights on this card, and I'll see you in the next episode.